Although allies in World War II, Japan and Germany once engaged in devastating battle, a nearly forgotten conflict that emboldened the victor and struck down the world-reaching designs of their enemy. This is the Siege of Qingdao. This video is brought to you by Odoo. Stick around at the end to learn how you can create a professional website fast, easy, and for free. A tide of guns, men, and horses sweeps over Europe. If the Great War is to bury the old world in lead and ash, here's a chance for an ambitious nation to capture a seat in a new global order. The following comes in late August. We, by the grace of heaven, Emperor of Japan, on the throne occupied by the same dynasty from time immemorial, hereby declare war against Germany, and we command our army and navy to carry on hostilities against that empire with all their strength. Even as the German army tramples across neutral Belgium, this is not so distant a threat as it may seem. All around the world, imperial European powers have claimed land and resources. Germany, desiring a vast empire of its own, colonized land in Africa, and from afar coveted the Chinese bay of Jiaozhou and the village of Qingdao. When a few German missionaries were slain nearby in 1897, the Germans used it as a pretext to force China to grant them a 99-year lease of the bay. Qingdao became a sort of colony, a recognizably German city on the coast of China. A center of trade governed by the military, it is to be a staging area for the eastern edge of a global German empire. But the Japanese have founded an empire of their own and wish to strengthen their foothold in China. The British are wary, but First Lord of the Admiralty Winston Churchill reasoned, if the Japanese are to come in the war, they may as well be welcomed as comrades. A British battleship will join the Japanese fleet under Admiral Kato Sadakichi as it bears down on Qingdao. At first reckoning, the German port appears impregnable. German gunboats stalk the coast, the surrounding waters are laid with thousands of mines, and from land it is flanked by rivers and mountains topped with forts of concrete and steel. The garrison is well trained, but even with volunteers and other auxiliary troops, the total defensive force stands at only 4,500 men. Moreover, much of the German fleet has departed to contend with the British Navy. The defenders of Qingdao managed to destroy a Japanese vessel on September 3rd, but over 100 miles north, some 20,000 men make landfall on the Chinese coast. The Japanese army under the talented General Kamio Mitsuomi has arrived to suffocate the Germans. The core of the German force are the Marines or Seebataillon in pith helmets and equipped with Gewehr 98 bolt-action rifles. The Japanese carry Arisaka Type 38 bolt-action rifles and have a penchant for impassioned bayonet charges. But this battle will not be constrained to land and sea. Off of Qingdao, the Japanese Navy conducts the world's first air raids launched from a ship. The pilots drop bombs by hand from rattling cockpits. Airplanes are in their infancy, flimsy inventions that barely break 60 miles an hour. Their value is reconnaissance. How rapidly the world has changed. Kamio and Kato command flying machines. Their fathers were samurai. Nearly 3 centuries ago, the land of the rising sun closed its shores. Its shogun, samurai clans, and feudal structure endured, while in the world beyond, new powers rose. Elevated by steam and industry. Thrust back into contact midway through the 19th century, Japan encountered old rivals, and lands here and there controlled or exploited by Western nations. Japanese officials swiftly industrialized, militarized, and bent ancient traditions to serve in the creation of a new empire. In the divine name of their emperor, they triumphed in wars against China and Russia, notably bringing Taiwan and Korea under their control. They now march south toward Qingdao in violation of Chinese neutrality. The Chinese report that the Japanese invaders assault women, plunder houses, and kill those that resist. The methodical General Kamio moves his forces to take the railroad and cut communication lines out of the city. Meanwhile, thousands more Japanese arrive with large guns at Laoshan Bay, where in the interest of supervision and alliance, the British will land 1,500 troops, men of the South Wales Borderers and later an Indian Sikh regiment. To bolster their defenses, the Germans have cleared villages and barred their Chinese laborers from evacuating. The defenders now await the onslaught. The value of the port aside, Kaiser Wilhelm II reviles the Japanese. He remarks, "It would shame me more to surrender Qingdao to the Japanese than Berlin to the Russians. But no relief force is coming. The Kaiser expects them to fight until the end." The clouded hills of Qingdao provide defense, but they conceal a vulnerability. Prince Heinrich Hill looms over the port, and if Kamio can take it, his army will gain a vantage point from which to launch and direct artillery. They can rain hell on German forts. On September 27th, the attackers push toward Prince Heinrich Hill. German artillery and vessels along the coast pummel their positions, but the defenders are in turn targeted by Japanese planes and a British warship. The hill thunders throughout the night until at last the Germans fall back and the Japanese capture the peak. It will take weeks for the Japanese to move their heavy siege guns to the front. The Germans attempt to break the attackers before then. They fire over 1,000 shells per day. Few hit their marks. The Germans then launch a night attack on October 5th, only to be cut down in droves by the Japanese. Around 2 weeks later, a German boat slips through a line of the blockade and confronts the Takachiyo, a Japanese cruiser carrying over 100 mines. The Germans fire 2 torpedoes into it, and the ship explodes and sinks, taking nearly 300 souls with it. Only 3 of the crew survive. Despite this, the Germans cannot break the blockade, and they are outmatched in the air. They possess a single plane, a bird-shaped Taube, piloted by Lieutenant Günther Pluschow. The Japanese planes harass his recon missions, and he fends them off with a firearm. Pluschow later claims to have downed a Japanese plane after firing 30 pistol shots, potentially one of the earliest aerial victories in history, but there is no record of any Japanese plane lost. In late October, Pluschow beholds the vast enemy army in their snaking trenches. The Allies have landed around 50,000 men, and among the hills they've finally moved 150 pieces of artillery into position. At first light on October the 31st, the official birthday of the Emperor, it's said that the thunder of the great guns broke suddenly upon that stillness which only dawn knows, and their discharges flashed redly on the darkling slopes. The oil tanks are hit, flames spread to the outer harbor, and a black haze smothers the town. The shelling is relentless by day, and when darkness comes, the Japanese shoot shrapnel to keep the Germans pinned, unable to make repairs or oppose the Japanese advance. The defenders' ammunition runs low in the days following. Their barbed wire defenses are breached, their forts surrounded. Amidst the damp cold of November, the Japanese begin their final assault. An observer relates, with bayonets in front of them gleaming in the glow of the morning sun, the attacking force charged up the slopes. The Japanese were mowed down by the machine guns, but on they came from all sides. 17,000 men against 3,800. The German garrison could not hold out. White flags strike overhead, and the Japanese cheer banzai. The craterous hills are littered with the dead, hundreds have fallen, and the surviving defenders are taken to Japan as prisoners of war. The Japanese find that the Germans have attempted to leave them little of value in Qingdao. The defenders broke their own guns, scuttled their ships, and even destroyed money in the bank. This is nevertheless a mighty victory for the Emperor, called the Mikado by Westerners. An American journalist from Green Bay, Wisconsin departs the conquered city. When I left Qingdao, it was on the back of a hardy Mongol pony, for the Germans had put their railroad out of commission by blowing up the bridges. The cutting north wind was chasing the dry leaves down the valleys and whistling around the barracks. Everywhere the country was gouged with the great holes and gashes of shells. In a ditch at the side of the road was still a pool of purpling blood where some poor fellow had fallen in the name of Mikado or Kaiser. Mindful to maintain diplomatic legitimacy with their allies, the Japanese treat Western powers in line with the Western rules of war. Qingdao is not pillaged, and they hold their German prisoners humanely. The Allies insist that Japan send soldiers against the Germans in France and Belgium. the black fields and slaughter trenches. The Japanese refuse. The Great War is no longer theirs to fight. The capture of Qingdao has not swayed the outcome of the war. But the offensive has left Japan with control of Qingdao in Germany's Pacific Islands and demonstrated Japan's prowess in combined operations and conquest. Only under great pressure did the Japanese restore Qingdao to the Chinese in 1922. The Japanese designs upon China are no secret, and the United States has emerged as another dominant power in the Pacific. Peace will not last. Watch this. My brother Joe spends hours manually creating each digital painting in these videos. It's a passion. But we don't love spending lots of time or money when we're building a website. That's why I'm excited to share Odoo with you. Today, websites are basically necessary if you want a successful business, and the Odoo website builder makes it easy and free for you to create a professional website to promote your brand or share your passion. In addition to unlimited hosting and support, you get a free custom domain for 1 year. From there, building a website with Odoo feels intuitive even if you've never done it before. Click a few things, drag and drop elements, upload logos, and more. And if you want to streamline writing copy, it even has an integrated ChatGPT feature. This is the gold standard for serious website building made simple. So don't wait, click the link in the description and get started today. Thank you for watching.